Alright, so hadn't messed with it a bunch. I don't know, I get in the moods where I don't want to mess with it, but then I get into a mood where I just can't stop. Anyway, I got the control arms done, or the spring pockets done, control arm cut, started doing the track bar today. So, well, first I did the steering arm. Here is my little high steer arm. I took a arm off of a Chevrolet Dana 44, cut it, welded it to the knuckle, put these big 3/8 plate gussets on it, and then I'm gonna run these big Chevrolet tie rod ends. I will have to drill my pitman arm. Oh, and the Fords, I guess in the 80s, anything that had a gearbox on it, they pretty much use the same gearbox, with the exception of this pitman arm comes out of the front, where the cars came out the back. Here, I'll get a better view. But this box is off of a 80, I don't know, like a 89, no, it's newer than that. This is the 92 to 96. It's a 7.3 IDI F250. Pulled it off. The lines hooked right back in. Bolted right back up in the factory spot. And the column hooked right back into it. Or the steering shaft hooked right back into it. So it was a bolt-in deal. Now I have done some research on it. I need to drill this little flat spot right here and that little spot right there for my hydro assist. So I'll pull the box back off, drill and tap those, and then for my hydro assist. A friend of mine has a reamer. I'll ream this out to fit this bigger tie rod, and then I'll get some tubing, and what I'll do is I'll just cut this, make it longer with some tubing, and then weld it back together. So I still have my adjuster, tie rod ends, all that. My track bar is a conglomeration of junk. These were actually control arms off of a 68 Camaro that I rebuilt the 4-link for. This was the tubing that was the control arm. I had this piece of tubing just laying around, and then this was the other end with a left-handed 3/4 high, and I don't have bolts yet, so 13 millimeter and 1/2 inch 3/8 drive sockets fit perfect for a 3/4 bolt hole. So anyway, got my sockets in there so that I got so I could get my axle centered up, but it is sitting on the weight, no lift, hooked up. This bar here was actually one of my sway bar end links that I built for my race buggy that had a Rockwell spider. It had a Rockwell 16 spline axle shaft for my sway bar. I had Rockwell spider gears on the end of it. Of course they were pretty long, so they were way out here, but I've been using this for, it's a 1/2 inch plate, so I've been using it for whatever plate that I need, and all I had to do was drill my hole a little bit bigger to fit the 3/4 high. Now I will come in here and run a piece of bar from here all the way over to this side of the frame so that it ties it in. I've seen too many issues where the frame wants to rotate like this, so you tie both sides of the frame in together, so that way it just a little added extra support. I may come in here and run me a plate and back to the housing and weld it just to ease my mind. This factory tie rod, I'm going to take this thing and flip it And while I have that reamer, I'm going to put it up on top. While I have that reamer, I think all I have to do is ream this side, because this side is already tapered for the other tie rod to go through here. So I should, in theory, just be able to flip it over. This will be on the driver's side. Put me a washer down on the bottom, tighten it back up, and then I raise my steering, what, about 4 inches, 5 inches. I'll come in here and I can cut these off because I really don't need them. And then I'll put my ram on it. What I'll do is probably weld ears to this and then mount my ram here in the center, have it coming out across the front diff cover. I know a lot of guys, they'll weld their tabs for their ram here and then just put the tabs in the center of the tie rod. The problem I have with that is whenever you bind up a tire, you're pushing out on this tie rod. So I like to run mine real close to the tie rod, not in the center, so that way it to me it's just a little bit stronger. It may be neither here nor there, but just peace of mind for myself. I don't like to run it in the center like a lot of people do. On the back, I came in and now it's sitting, it's not on the lift. I came in and added this 2x3 rectangle and its quarter wall to my 2-inch quarter wall. And what I did is I run it to the front of the housing. Of course, it's welded on the back side, not the front side yet. And it comes up here and then it's just cut off. What I'm going to do is take a piece of 2-inch and cut it at an angle and run it all the way up there, so we're just not got a flat area to hit on. I'm going to come here and run it up at an angle so that it's like a little ramp. This thing will actually hang just a little bit lower than what the cross member does, and the one link actually runs uphill when it's setting at ride height. So I'm very pleased with how it turned out. If I had more time, I could probably I could have shaved this or whatever and made it flat, but I'm not really worried about it that much. I think it's going to be fine. If I get hung up on something, that just means I need to do a little bit more creative driving. So, but that's the car level. The one link's actually running uphill a little bit. So I like how that turned out. I got my factory shocks up in there. I had mounted the coil springs too far forward, so I had to cut them loose and scoot the mounts back. Now they're standing up in there straight up and down. So I got all the what body lift blocks I have. I've got all those in and tight. I've got to get 4 more for the back. So I got a long ways to go. Oh, I don't know if I took video of this, but I do have the clutches in it, clutch, flywheel, all that stuff, hole cut for the transmission shifter, and that right there, that piece of C-channel running from radius arm bracket to bracket, is the transmission cross member. Got the transmission mount in it, transmission cross member in it. I still need to run my little frame rails from that cross member like I did the front there, all the way back here to the back. But Anyway, I'm getting closer. I'm working a deal with a buddy of mine for some wheels for these. They're 17 by 12s. They're a Rockwell 2.5 ton pattern. But I'm going to take the center out of a 5-ton dually wheel and cut the 2.5 ton center out, weld those in, and I'll be able to bolt my wheels on. Not real sure. I'm going to take these apart, get rid of the drums and all that, and I still got to do my rear brake. But I'm not real sure if I'm going to go ahead and pull the chunk out and weld it. I may leave this thing open front and rear for right now. I'm getting tired of working on it. So my main concern is just getting it up and going and drivable. And I think with the suspension that it's got on it, it'll probably work pretty good, even being open front and rear. But I don't know. We'll see. I still got to get a gear for the front. I need to get a 488 gear for it to match up my tire size with the gear ratio that's in the rear. So this is the shifter that I had built for the Pinto when I first built it. Put the granny 4-speed in it. That goes down in the transmission. You got a little U-joint there, another little U-joint there. This mounts on the floor, and then you got your shifter handle. And back when I was doing spare tire carriers on Jeeps all the time, that was the handle that I had. So right there. I've been trying to think of something a little bit different. I mean, I like the pistol grip, it's cool, but I'm trying to figure out something maybe a little bit different to fit this build a little better. I don't know. Anybody got some suggestions or something goofy that would look good on a shifter? I'd even make it real tall, like a big gasser shifter or something. Anyway, I'm gonna call it quits for this evening, and I don't know, hopefully I can get my steering and shock mounts. Yeah, I got to work on those. I'm going to pull the shock towers and the front shocks off of that F250 as well and use them on the front. The center of the coil spring there, I'm going to take a piece of 3-inch pipe, put it over here in my bender, flare it out, make a cone out of it, so that way it'll slide down in. Let's see. Show you what I mean. Take that piece of 3-inch and you flare it. And drop it straight down in there. That flare will rest on the frame right there. I can weld it in, and then that makes a coil spring slide. So I don't have to mount it up here. Just have to mount it down there. I don't know how much flex it's going to have, but anyway. Make those just to another thing just to ease my mind. So anyway, we'll get back after it probably tomorrow evening.